Thank you for your interest in the Retained Recruiter Show, powered by iIntro. Before the show starts, I have a small favour to ask of you. Our goal is to provide you with the most insightful, helpful and practical recruitment knowledge and know-how from the best in the recruitment industry. If you like this channel and enjoy watching our content, hit the subscribe button to get notified as soon as we upload a new episode. Thank you again, and as ever, we're rooting for your success. Now, time for the show.
Hello and welcome to the Retained Recruiter Show. My name is James.
And my name is Jo, and thank you for joining us for what is our last show of the year, isn't it, James?
Yes, I'm so glad you added "of the year," by the way, because
last show ever.
Anyway, Jo, we're joined today by a very special guest, Dualta Doherty. Very nice to meet you. How are you?
Very well, very well. I'm over in Belgium here at a client site, and I think there might be creamy pints in my future.
Yes, in a roughly 29 minutes, maybe.
A man after my own heart in many ways. So
that would be the Buncrana blood in you.
It must be. It's one of those little anomalies that my father was born in the same place that Dualta's born in, which is a place called Buncrana in County Donegal, for those who want to look it up on the map. And believe it or not, I've never been there, but I'm visiting next year. So there we go. Finally catching up after 60 years. But there we go. Anyway, just thanks very much for joining us, Dualta. It's great to have you here. And for those who don't know him, he's a very experienced recruitment founder and operator who has spent the last decade building teams, advising agencies, and moving literally hundreds of recruiters from UK and Ireland over to Australia. He runs the Doherty Group, RecWired, Orca, and RecLabs Advisory, giving him a very unique view of what actually works in today's market, which is what we're going to be discovering today. His work blends community training and advisory with hands-on experience scaling recruitment businesses globally. So if you're not already in connection or in touch with Dualta, please do reach out to him. We're going to flash up on the screen his LinkedIn connection. And the reason I'm saying that is because Dualta, with respect, your name isn't one that sort of rolls off the tongue. It's not an everyday name for most people to spell right. And I've already spelled it a couple of times wrong myself, but we'll flash them on the screen so people should connect with you on LinkedIn. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us.
James, wonderful introduction there. Can I bring you along with me just to introduce me into new places?
I'm available for any engagements. Just fees.
For a small fee, yes.
Yes. So, Jo, what are we going to be talking about today? What are we going to?
So the topic is build back better. Good grief, easy for me to say, clearly. So we're going to be talking about Dualta's reflections on 2025, and then looking ahead into 26 and those predictions. So 5 key topics that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about what recruitment really needs in 2026, but we're going to also just have an insight from Dualta about how he found 25, how his clients have found it, what he thought of the market. And also then we're going to talk about some market observations that you just can't simply ignore at the moment going into 2025. We're obviously going to talk about tech, a little bit about AI, and we're going to talk about building your strategy. What do you actually need to build your strategy in 2026? What's that formula for growth that everyone needs to be thinking about? So this is a great time to have you on, Dualta, obviously it being in the end of the year. Hopefully we've got lots of business owners on the show today who are thinking about 2026, maybe haven't had the best 25. What are your observations of this last 12 months then, from your own opinion?
The last 18 months have been pretty hard, right? It's I look at the billings within my own Rec business, where the team mainly do that side of it, and it's not been great, and it's just been stagnant. Largely we do move people around the world. We do a lot of people work in the UK as well, and just companies just haven't known if they're coming or growing, and if they're growing, how they're going to do it. And it's been batten down the hatches, keep costs low, and they'll only hire a unicorn. And it's been a tough time, but it's given a lot of people time to reflect on their business and the model that they want to have, and like what they're ultimately after. Really, it's been hard, but we're still here. And as my colleague Andy Hallett says, whether things are good or bad, you need to plan like you're going to be here tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a good piece of advice myself. And it's interesting because obviously we've reflected with numerous people over this year. We run these retained recruiter shows every couple of weeks. There's lots of guests on, and it's been interesting watching the year. And I think a lot of the feedback that we've had from previous guests, now we're doing it with the benefit of hindsight, if you like. But some of those reflections are the challenges that recruiters have had. I love that phrase, by the way, coming or growing. I like that one. In terms of how people have done, but they've been, in some respects, have been overwhelmed, and so there's just been almost like a deer in the headlights. People just haven't known what to do, and I think it's just how we can help them move forward. And that's where I think today what we want to sort of want you to share with us is obviously some of your views on what recruitment business owners and founders of their business, what they can do to sort of move forward. That's what we do. Any thoughts from you, Joe?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when we were discussing this offline a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the market and some of the challenges that we were discussing that you think recruitment businesses have faced in 25. That'd be really great if you could just give us a bit of an overview of particular challenges that you think that recruitment businesses might be facing around about now, having come out of that kind of, like you said, 12 to 18 months of it not being the best market on the planet whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, I think I touched upon it before with you guys, and it kind of started when Elon went into Twitter and decided that you don't need as many people to do the same thing as before. And that had this massive knock-on effect on private equity and how businesses are built. And then AI came in and almost flirted with the idea that it could replace humans. And who knows where that'll go. But it's really added a bit of hesitancy from the market in general to hire people. And then it's what type of, if we take it outside of a recruitment firm and look at it from the end user's perspective, are they hiring a young person to do those jobs that you used to be able to learn on the job, or is automation taking that bottom area away? And thus, anecdotally, we hear about graduates like sending thousands of applications and it's not working, but like, are they just sending AI applications and getting responded by that? And are we in this horrible death cycle of technology instead of human interaction? And it feels like people just haven't made up their mind. I will say that in RecWire, there's 1,000 recruitment companies, so we're able to kind of get a really broad spectrum of things. And when I look at lots of firms went out of business, especially the ones that overextended where they were going to get to. And as I'm sure you know, the death sentence for them was LinkedIn recruiter licenses and not being able to get out of that contract. And companies just went out of business. Independent recruiters who thought they were good because the market was good got a wake-up call, and they weren't trained professionally, and they didn't have the resilience. And I mean, they're walking dogs now. Like, it's so. And then the best companies did strip back, and they looked at their tech, their strategies, their markets, and the type of people that they hire to execute all of this. And some have even looked at where they're based and their tax locations. Are they going to sell, or are they going to aim to get an MBO some days? It's really shook the whole industry up as to where we're going to be. But the best are going to survive. The best are going to find the best niche. They're going to hire and train the best people, and they're going to make it happen. And they're going to steal market share off their competitors.
I think that ability for people to remain fleet of foot and look at the market and how do they adapt to it. That's in some respects that's always been true, particularly when you're coming out of downturns. And when you've seen downturns, we often see some amazing performances that come from those, from the organisations, as the phrase we use today, how they can build back better. And it's that preparation they're putting into the market and what they're looking at and analysing their strengths and weaknesses. And obviously, we'll talk a little bit more about AI later, but looking at saying, how and where do I use AI? There's a lot of confusion around that, in terms of what that's going to do. We can come back to that later. But it's really about sort of taking things. So, are there just a couple of key things that you would, if you're advising, Joe and I were really a recruitment business, or anything that you'd be advising us to look at as we go into 2026?
I think any type of advisory work starts with your P&L and understanding where your money was made, and then linking that then to the ATS, and then figuring out what actually happened, what was right, and understanding then who, if you scorecard your clients, your niche, your candidates, your team, your performances, and just understanding what's worked, what hasn't. And some people have, like, it's, once you understand and you do an analysis of where a business is at, helping them plot forward and what's going to happen is really down to the individual niche. You know, because I could give you all the best advice in the world, but maybe you're in a category that has just been wiped out, doesn't exist. So, and this has been a reality for a lot of businesses. But if you're good and you can do the hard work and the business development, there are niches out there where people are making tremendous amounts of money. So I think, you know, good advice and understanding where the adjacent markets are and how to go about getting into those is really important for anybody.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that's something that's common within recruitment businesses, or quite rare for them to actually sit at this point, or at any point in the year, I suppose, and take stock of where the money is coming in order to make them more efficient and more effective? Or, you know, is that something that you see quite a lot, or is it do we think a little rare?
No, I think to brand to understand what we're talking about, and an independent recruiter is not going to do that. A sub 5-man business probably won't. But if somebody has a strategic advisor on board and they're doing a quarterly boardroom, they are going to break down your business and hold you accountable. So again, it depends on how professional that business is, and yeah, not everybody has access to a great advisor to be able to do all of that. But I think even now with AI, you could self-diagnose your business. You could go in and ask, hey, how do I diagnose where my business is at and really understand where it's at, and then you can go about making that happen. I think it's really important that everybody does that. I mean, I did it with our Rec business last week, and it's hard. You know, like I the first thing I would say is, how many clients do we have? And then they say, 1,000. And then I'll say, well, what is a client? And then they'll go, well, it's this person that, and I'll say, no, who paid our bills? Who did we do a placement with in the last 18 months? Okay, so that's an A. And then what's a B? Maybe somebody we have terms with and have had an interview. And then maybe then there's somebody that we've done a deal with years ago before. So you have to really be honest about who your clients are. And then what are you bringing to them in terms of your own value? Like, if the market's changed, when I look at my Rec business and I think, God, we were pretty early with the sequencing and media and all of this. Everybody's caught up now. So what are we doing to stay ahead? They are really hard conversations, and then you have to create an action plan and keep people accountable. And it's just war, isn't it? Recruitment business it's a hard business, and when it's good, it's great. And these down times, you know, never waste a good recession.
Yeah,
very true. Actually, very true.
Yeah, I think it's important to, you know, have that focus, that clear-minded focus to say we've got to do these things, and it's the tough times. That's the thing that separates people from, you know, just being, you know, also rans in terms of structuring their business. I think we've all got to do that. So I think that's good advice that we can take. Let's move on a bit and say, you know, what are the things that, you know, you see people are seeing that sometimes some people are just going to stick their head in the sand, and maybe we're going to talk about AI here, I don't know, but what are the market observations that you think people shouldn't ignore?
Well, I mean, I'd like to give you a bit of good news, because there's been too much doom, right? Yeah. So, as I mentioned, we have 1,000 businesses in RecWire, and out of them, 350 are in that mid-tier group, which is the bit that most good businesses strive to get into. And out of them, in Q4, 100% of them were optimistic and said that everything's improved. And, anecdotally, then I'd say other good news is that, a lot of people who are doing the US market within non-sexy stuff like construction or built environment or that, they're doing really well and they're making big fees. And so there is opportunity out there.
Yeah. So yeah, there's opportunity there and some of them, like say, are in unsexy markets, but I think there is some good news there. But just to I think it's sound like I'm on question time, so just go back to the question.
Yeah, sorry.
Anything that people, anything they can't ignore. And maybe it's an unsexy.
Well, look, the things you can't ignore is, are your people productive?
Yeah.
And are they billing? And if they're not, they need to go. And like they're the things you can't ignore. Like, are your clients hiring? If they're not, you need new clients. Like if we get into the weeds, if the phone isn't working, you have to ask yourself why it's not working. Like, what is it? Is it that you're not dialing enough? Is it that you've done it once? Is it that you don't have the right numbers? If you're like, in any business, you need to be studying what metrics matter to you. And then when one of them isn't working, you need to ask yourself why, and then you need to create an action plan and how you go about it.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the death nails on small recruitment business, that those 350, like you say, I think what you said there is quite pertinent. It's probably born out of experience. We often mistakenly hang on for too long to the non-performers. I was speaking to one of our clients earlier on this week, and and he's put people on performance improvement programs, to help them through. He said, relieved when they've eventually come to the point themselves, say, listen, I'm leaving, I'm going somewhere else. So I'm now someone else's problem because it saved him months of going through agony in that way. But sometimes it's about taking those early steps. So these are things you can't ignore. Don't put off something. It's not, if someone's not been performing for 3 months plus, there's something fundamentally wrong. You've either got to get to the core of it, or you've got to move on, because it's not going to happen. It's not going to just magically get better. That old definition of madness sort of comes to mind there. So, sorry, Joe, I think I might have cut across you.
No, I agree with you. It's again, it's down to that size of business, isn't it? If you're big enough and you've institutional money, you can hang on for the upturn. But if you're an independent recruiter or a founder-led sub 10-man business, like you're living and dying by the performance of the people in front of you. So you just have to be on them and honest with it. And then if they're all not working out, then maybe it's your strategy. Maybe it's your niche. It's there's just so much permutations, isn't there? But performance and culture of performance is everything.
Yeah. I do wonder sometimes if organizations either aren't training their staff enough, just recruiting them and expecting them to know what to do and how to do it. But also if maybe we're not in the right mindset, we're not training them the right things. So the whole hunter-gatherer modes, and are you bringing people in a gatherer mode? But then when the market changes and gets tougher and gets tighter, you're expecting them to just naturally know how to become a hunter. Yeah. I'd be interested in your thoughts actually on that, and just training in general within recruitment organizations.
Yeah, I did a LinkedIn Live with Jamie Burrows on this subject yesterday or the day before, and he has a whole process around hunter and gathering. And again, it starts with analysis of the business, understanding your customers, understanding all of like who your ideal client is, who your ideal candidate is, and what the processes are around that. I think it's very hard when things go wrong, it's very hard to give people the bad news all the time that they're not doing enough. So sometimes it's great if you can bring in an outside voice to come in and give a bit of objective analysis and then be able to be that extra voice. I coach kids as well in jiu-jitsu. Sometimes they just stop listening to me, so I bring in another trainer, and it's the same message, but it has a different result.
Mm-hmm.
Is that this might be slightly off topic, but we're on training. One of the more recent things that you've got involved in is Orca. Can you share a little bit about the reason for that from your perspective?
Yeah, from my perspective. So after COVID, I coached about 100 independent recruiters and early stage startups. And one of the things I discovered pretty quick was that they weren't professionally trained. And I was really lucky that, like, I had on-desk training at Robert Walters, which was 10 hours a day, somebody brilliant next to me, and I was held accountable, and it molded and shaped me, and I was able to do other things in life from it. And I could tell that a lot of them had come from mom and pop shops where the culture and of working really hard and doing the right thing and like a culture of excellence just wasn't there. And even just the ABCs of what to do and how to make one thing lead to the next. And I could see all these gaps, but I didn't have the energy to teach them. And I don't think I'm a recruitment trainer by trade. I think there's certain people that can do it and be teachers. I could do it for an hour a week, and then I find it exhausting. So I partnered with a guy called Dan Alexander, and I put some of my RecWire team with Andy and Charlotte, and we got Dominic McGlynn to build the platform, and we built up a massive body of work supported by live sessions for rookies and for seniors. And then I realized, oh God, if you don't like Dan, you're not going to buy the product. So I'm going to have to go find all the other best trainers in the UK. So then we got 20 more trainers involved, and we got this amazing bank of information and live training sessions. And look, the aim is to give affordable training out there to people, and I think we've achieved it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a laudable approach that you're doing there, because I think one of the things Joe and I see, and we just touched on this point, the reality is the expectations of people, but they're not really being trained, particularly when they come from the smaller places. And you had the advantage of sitting inside the Robert Walters 10 hours a day, and there's many other examples of that we've all been through, which is great. I think the fear is that culture, it seems to have slipped, post COVID particularly. I think things that we need to do there. Got any views on that, Joe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think. I 100% agree with what you say, that a lot of people haven't actually had professional training, and obviously we work in the realms of organizations that want to put professional and robust training programs in place, but I think with a lot of organizations they don't, or sometimes the training that they are giving the guys, it's not just the training, is it? It's the reiteration of it, it's the embedding it at the desk, it's making sure, like you said, Dualta, that it's desk specific and it's market relevant as well, because not one thing works in one market doesn't necessarily work in another. So I think that's really useful. I mean, I know we were talking to you about Orca as well, and I think online training, online platforms as a resource now is really useful for businesses as well, as having your traditional face-to-face training. And I think sort of creating a hybrid model is a good thing, which I'm hoping now brings us into a very nice segue into technology and how recruitment businesses can use technology to enhance what they do, I suppose, rather than replace it. So let's have a conversation around the kind of the human versus AI piece here. What are your thoughts around AI and how we're bringing it into our industry?
That's a very broad question. I think we're all at risk of overcomplicating it, and we're all at risk of thinking now we're all developers, and you could waste a tremendous amount of time trying to stay ahead of everything, when really, like, the bullhorns of this world and other platforms, like I'm at a client site here, Spot, it's an ATS that we've just moved to, they have it all figured out for you. Like they're investing millions and millions and millions to do this. So, like, I think people can overestimate it. And then the bit I'm always worried about, and I'm guilty of it myself at times, but I've come back on it a bit now, is everybody's just sending bloody email sequences and disingenuous, like it, and people can tell, and then they just see it and then they respond with it, and we're going to lose that element of rapport building. And the key to any sales is trust. And trust only comes from a connection and an understanding. And if you use technology to front that, it's not going to work. And so it is a tricky one. I think media might be the bridge between it. So if enough people can see you and understand you and hear your voice and build a bit of trust from that, maybe that leads to the conversations, and then the conversations can lead to the placements. But it's definitely not as simple as it was, because people don't answer the phone as much, and that's only going to increase. And generationally, people aren't going to want to be on the phone, and it's a different. People are just different now. So it's tricky. So, but I mean, in an ideal world, right? You have your recruiter, and you've got 2,000 people you've had a conversation with, and you've 100 great clients, and you're cycling through that, and everybody knows you, and they're happy to take your call. That's where we all want to hit. But how we get there, I think, you still need to be a subject matter expert ideally in an industry, and you have really good processes, and you need to know how to build rapport, and you need to know how to add value.
Oh, I don't know about anybody else. I can't hear James.
I think I may have accidentally pressed the mute button.
There we are.
Yeah. But I've
There we
never
are.
done one.
The technology, eh? Look at that. Technology was like, I'll show you.
That's all right.
It's interesting. You made some good points there about people like Bullhorn and Spot in terms of doing all for you, and I think that's what organisation recruiters should be looking at. But I saw this. I don't really see this post from Greg Savage, almost like a cartoon. It says, "Who are we? We're recruitment leaders. What do we want? AI. AI to do what? We don't know. When do you want it, right?" And there's all been that rush, because we've sort of seen that in the marketplace, and people say, listen, you forget the human connection. The bit you said there about trust. One of the things Joe always talks about. So one of the things we do here at iIntro is, through sort of the Retain Recruiter Academy, which it sits alongside your platform as well here in terms of mirroring sort of things. But what we do is we help people transition and learn that you've got to build that trust. You've got to build it, because it's a contact sport, and all these monotonous sequences which are going out, which we're probably all guilty of it in some degree. But it's about making sure we come back to that training point and say, listen, you've got to build those connections, but those connections aren't built on you posting out hundreds and hundreds of emails day in, day out.
So where technology can work, and where the right platforms, the two that I just mentioned there anyway, and everything starts with your data. So AI can help with that, and refreshing that, and making that happen, and nurturing it to a certain degree as well. And then obviously now we have note takers within the ATS systems as well, so nothing gets missed, and that's linked to a phone system. We use device, and if all of this stuff is kept and tracked, and all of that's happening in the background, then that's a great use of it. But everything should look like a funnel that's heading towards good conversations with candidates and clients.
Yeah. Good. Well, I think it brings us in nicely to the sort of the final topic that you just want to cover over the last couple of minutes, which is really looking at in terms of providing people or helping people understand what they need to do to create a formula for growth in 2026. And we position it as both experience plus strategy. It's not one or the other. It's not an either or. But again, just appreciate your thoughts on what that happens to be.
I mean, it's such a broad question, but you need to figure out where the money is. So keeping an eye on what are the new job categories that are emerging out there. Like, it seems like GTM is this massive thing now that everybody's hiring for in organizations. And, the AI is going to kill tons of jobs, but it's going to open up other categories. And understanding what they are and how they're close to your niche and how you can keep ahead of it is going to be key. I've seen so many good recruitment firms move niche from like the guys who are struggling at renewable have got into data centers, or it's just really keeping an eye on who's making money. Can I do that? And is my category dead now? Like, you have to be honest. It's not like before. It's not like you can just go, okay, no, I'll just hold it out. This is my niche. I'm sticking to it. No, not like it could be dead. It could be replaced. So you have to be on it. There will be money out there, and if you go for something, then you have to commit to it. Don't just go, oh, I'll tiptoe around this niche and I'll kind of half try it with my worst recruiter that I'm going to fire anyway. You need to make a considered plan in how to make it happen.
Yeah, and again, I think that's an important stat as well, Dualta, that all of the jobs which AI will replace, and should rightly do so because it's just much more efficient, it creates all those other opportunities. So you've got to look at it. I mean, one of the obvious ones which was floating around there was truck driving in the US, for example. One of the little examples I saw. Well, with driverless trucks, and truck driving is one of the biggest industries, then that's going to replace that. So where do you shift? That's where you've just got to sort of spend time thinking about, where do I shift to? And as you rightly said, don't put your worst person. If you're going to shift to it, give it all. Give it the.
And who's gonna do the maintenance for these trucks? Who's gonna help program these trucks? Do we have enough energy sources for these trucks? That goes on and on and on and on. And if this is your industry, maybe that's what you need to be looking at within that framework.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, Joe, any final points from you before we wrap this one up?
So I know, just to go back to the title that I so eloquently said earlier on, so that the whole idea of building back better in 2026, we've spoken a little bit about AI, we've spoken about, tech, measurement, training. Anything else that you would recommend that recruitment business owners and directors should be considering as they move into 26 now?
Well, I think, like we mentioned, we talked a lot about the niche and understanding that. And then I suppose the profile of the person you're going to hire, like surely with all the tools and education and all of that, we can get junior recruiters up faster and more skilled than before. Why are you not hiring these young people and giving them a shot? Like, why are you, like, I was better at recruitment in my first 3 years than I am now 15 years later, because I was hungry. I needed it. It was do or die for me. I needed that visa in Australia, and I was young and ambitious, and I'm a bit of a soft touch now in comparison. Give these young people a chance, and always trust in youth, eh?
Yeah, but I think that it's about putting in place a training program. Just throw them at the deep end. Yes, some will succeed, but it's probably a wiser investment to do that.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Dualta, we've covered a lot of topics, and I know, as you said, a number of them are very broad. But I think it's about saying, listen, think about your business model, think about where the market's moving, how it's moving. I think you've shared some thoughts on that. I think we've put up a couple of flashpoints where people can connect with you on LinkedIn. Obviously, you've got a lot of advice. You've got all that experience that you can give. You connected to all those things like RecWired, you mentioned. That's an amazing organisation as well. So that'd be good to get through. So thanks so much for sharing all that information with us and our audience today. Joe, anything from you before we finish?
I think that's it. I think here's to a successful 2026. I don't think it's going to be, no one ever says it's going to be easy, but then it never gets easier, does it? We just get better. So I think, some great insights from you there, Dualta, particularly for people to take into 2026. And definitely look up Dualta, look up RecWire, look up Orca, doing some great things. And, RecWire, a fantastic network, which I think is something that, recruitment business owners probably need to look into a bit more. No man is an island. It can be a very isolating place running a recruitment business. And so we just hope that, conversations like this help to just add a bit of insight into something that can be a relatively lonely place for people. So thanks, Dualta. We massively appreciate you being here with us today.
Thanks, guys, and enjoy your staff night out.
I will do. Listen, you enjoy part of that creamy stuff as well.
Enjoy Bristol.
Let's go. All right. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye from me.
And it's bye from me, guys. Have a great festive period if we don't see you before. And we'll see you in 2026.